I'm Chris the Counsellor, and today we're going to look at an important reflective practice question that I think will really help you get to the heart of your counselling practice. So this is a question that I've used a lot with supervisees, with students, and even in my own practice to really look at what my intention is and basically what I'm up to as a counsellor. So often I might be asked questions about certain ways of practicing, certain things that were done with clients. And the question is usually something around like, was that right? Should I have done that? Is there a different way that I could have worked with them? And often we might get lost in the kind of details or the facts of what we've done. For example, ask a question or reflect in a certain way. But the thing that I want to share with you today is a question that kind of goes to another level below that to really help you understand what you're doing in your counselling practice. And that question is to ask ourselves, what was our intention in the thing that we did? So rather than asking something like, is it right to ask questions in counselling or not? It might be more helpful and specific to ask ourselves what our intention was in asking a question to a client. I think this really gets below the surface and looks at what our intention and our motivation was behind any type of practice that we do with clients. Now, I'll focus on the person-centered approach because that's what a lot of this channel is about and what I practice myself. And at the root of person-centered counselling are the 6 conditions. And so in a way, these conditions can be used alongside this question of what our intention was to try and work out if this is in line with our philosophy and our practice. So, for example, if we're looking at asking a question towards a client, if we can be really honest with ourselves and be able to answer that this question was asked to develop my understanding and my empathy, then we might be in the right territory for confirming the reasons for our practice and feeling confident in our motivations as to why we did what we did with a client. Now, the thing about this is that we have to be really honest with ourselves. It's very easy to kind of brush away that question if we're to say something like, I just thought it was the best thing I could do. I was just trying to help the client and so on and so on. And I think these areas, we can miss some of the depth and understanding about ourselves and our practice. So if we're really honest about ourselves, which obviously involves a lot of self-awareness, a lot of being true and diving deep into our intentions, then I think we can get some really good answers around our practice. So, for example, sometimes we might be stuck with a client, or we might even feel anxious in a silence or not know what to do next. And we may do something or ask something because of our own anxiety. And sometimes that's hard to admit to ourselves. Sometimes we might try and kind of explain it away or try and justify it ultimately to try and make it seem like it was for the right intention. But if we're able to know ourselves well and be honest with what was going on inside of us during the practice, then we might be able to say, okay, I hold my hands up. I asked that question because I didn't know what else to do, or I was feeling anxious about the silence, or the client looked uncomfortable at that time and I wanted to make that better. So if we can be really honest with ourselves, we should hopefully get some really clear answers about our practice and what's motivating it. If we're honest with ourselves, we also allow ourselves to learn from our practice and to develop this going forward. So the more congruent we can be with our own internal process, then the more we can get to the root of what we're doing in the counselling room and why. So with the example before, if we can be honest and say, I felt anxious in that silence with the client and I just wanted to say something, this gives us really good data to reflect on our practice and also learn from that for future sessions. It may be something even bigger to explore in personal therapy or similar, to look at our own process with silences, for example, or with anxiety, or this desire to make sure that the client is comfortable, or always to fill any gaps or silences that we may have. So hopefully this gives you a really good question to reflect on your practice. And it might move you away from the kind of black and white thinking of, I did this, was it right? I did that, was it wrong? If we begin to get in tune with our true intention behind our practice and behind our individual reflections or responses, then we not only get to know ourselves better as a practitioner, but it also means that we can hopefully provide a better space more in line with the conditions for each client that we encounter. The other thing, and the last thing I want to say about this, is that we can also use this in pretty much any area of life. Sometimes we might explain away or give a simple answer to behaviors or things that we've done. But if we really take some time to tune into our intention and our process behind our behaviors and behind our actions, then I think it not only gives us really valuable insight into ourselves, but really great learning to take forward and also reassess any actions or behaviors that we're wondering about in our lives or our counselling practice. So I hope that's a helpful little bit of information that you might be able to start to integrate into your practice, in your discussions at college, or just when you're reflecting on your own or in supervision, to really get to the heart of what you're up to as a counsellor and the motivations that are driving that in your practice. I'd be really interested to know how this lands with everyone, so feel free to let me know in the comments below, and also any other areas of practice you might want me to focus on in future videos. Okay, I look forward to seeing you again soon, and thanks a lot for taking the time to watch this video.